passing, hip checking, ankle breaking from way downtown. Brian knows the sticking show you need to know. Welcome to the pregame.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the final episode of the Pregame's 2015 Summer Series. The Pregame is the official podcast of Boxscore, where sports are always at the tip of your fingers. It's Monday, July 20th, 2015. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, here along with your color commentator, Mr. Philip Stella.
Hey, guys and gals, what's up?
The Pregame is a seasonal podcast dedicated to sports gaming, and our summer series has been focused on everything in the world of golf and racing. If you're not already a part of Boxscore community, please check us out at boxscoregaming.com or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/Boxscore to connect with other sports gamers. We actually made a few changes recently in Boxscore. We now have some team captains that are essentially leading the conversation for each of our sports that we cover. So for football, Mr. James Dowlow is going to be our co-captain, and he's got a big to-do with Madden coming out this fall.
A big responsibility, James.
Yep, that's right. Hockey, Mr. Alex Thornton is going to be joining us as our captain. Jesse White's going to take on basketball. Ryan Hahn for UFC. Jerry McCoy for WWE. We have a couple openings still, so if anybody would like to join, volunteer, say, hey, you know, I'm into this sport. Let's get the conversation going. We're looking for golf, soccer, baseball, racing. Racing's pretty big, so we could split that. And then maybe some arcade. That'd be kind of fun to have somebody lead the arcade game charge. So join us in Boxscore. We're talking sports all the time, and a couple of headlines that we've been chatting about so far this last week. One of the big ones, NCAA approved the settlement to pay players. That goes back to the Ed O'Bannon case.
It's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start.
So you read a little more details on that. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I read some of the details. I don't know. I don't know if I went into all the details. But it's all that I took away from it is there's nothing happening yet, but it's a start to where we want to be getting our college sports back in the mainstream. So I don't want to go into the whole debate on what that means and all that good stuff. For time purposes, we had a great conversation going on in the Boxscore community on Facebook. So, you know, that's more of a forum for that because there's a couple different sides to the story there.
Yeah, we could dedicate a whole show to that for sure.
We could, yeah. Hopefully this means that, you know, our college sports are that one step closer to possibly being realized once again. So
Yep, exactly. That's good. So keep your eye on that news because if you're a sports gamer, you want college sports back. So hopefully we get that going soon. Another one of the headlines, Madden dropped their rookie ratings, and we actually had a conversation about this in Boxscore right after the NFL season, I think.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And the debate was Jameis. How good would Jameis be in Madden as a rookie? And Phil, tell us how good he is.
Well, he's the best. I believe didn't he guess he was going to be around 84, 83?
I think
84?
that's what he predicted in that video, yeah.
And he received an 81 rating, is that correct?
81, yeah, 81. I don't know what the breakdown is, but that's pretty high.
It's a good year. I was born that year.
That's right.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Anyone taking on Tampa Bay this year will be off to a good start at the QB position, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know, go Knowles.
So if you haven't seen that article, check out EA Sports, their Madden coverage. They have their press releases and whatnot. So they give a top 10 and have a little reaction video, which is pretty cool. So check that out. Another one of the headlines, the FIFA 16 cover features.
Just got a whole lot prettier.
Features Alex Morgan. So, and again, Phil, that's you covered I guess, covered. You followed the
I broke the story.
broke the women won. They won the World Cup. Yeah, so you followed that a lot closer than I did, but I think that's great. Throw them on there. It's a new feature of the game. Yeah, I think it'll do well for sales. We had that cover vote conversation last week, so we'll see what happens.
I definitely think that it's and again in the Boxscore community on Facebook. This is why you got to join, guys. A lot goes on in there. We had a brief discussion, and I kind of asked the question, "What does everybody think that does for women's soccer in the United States?" We do have a great, I'm going to call it a farm system, but we have a great structure for women's sports here in this country, and I think it's showing. Especially with our girls winning the World Cup this year. They deserve this. I mean, I've seen some nasty comments in other forums about it. And I mean, look, Alex Morgan's she's easy on the eyes. So that doesn't hurt you. She's a great athlete. She's a great soccer player. And our women's national team deserves this. They've done so much. Like they've been really good. They've been really good,
but
guys.
it's not only that, but it's also part of the game. So it makes perfect sense as a brand new
and they want
feature.
to, they want to bring that out and let everybody know that we do have the national team for women in our game. So,
well, and I think it goes to be, the stereotype of only dudes are gamers, but that's simply not the case. So you can't blame EA for bringing the women to the forefront, and tons of women and girls play sports games as well. So why not include them, give them their fair share? I mean, it's the engine of the game that's built on. Throw some ladies in there, and I'm gonna play that for sure. I think it's gonna be fun.
Why not have more content? Right? Like, is more content a bad thing? Even if you don't use it, it's not. It's not gonna hurt you. So that's cool.
Exactly. Yep.
Very cool.
So the other big headline, Rory McIlroy finally came out last Tuesday. 2 mediocre reviews, I think it would be the best way to say it. I think what we covered, our thoughts on the game were pretty in line with what everybody else said. It plays really well. It needs more to do. That's kind of the basics. Also, as part of Boxscore, we do a pregame poll every week, and this week was no different. We asked, what is your favorite racing game of all time, and why? So we threw this actually into Boxscore on Facebook, and then as if you're a podcast unlocked, we only got one response from there. I think those posts get buried pretty quick. So
what's up with that, locksmiths? Come on, what's up with that?
So our podcast unlock response, Nigel Coleman is a big fan of Forza 4. So he said it's one of the best racing games ever made, graphically advanced, tons of options, so much detail down to each car, each glove compartment, and the sounds of the engine. So that's definitely hard to argue.
I do know they made tons of changes for Forza 4. So
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's hard to argue. On the box score side of things, I'll let you speak for yourself, but Jesse White brings up Mario Kart, as did Jerry McCoy, Mario Kart and the Wii U. And that's such a fun social game. I mean, that is definitely one of the first games that comes to mind when you think of racing, because you're with your friends, you're just sitting there. In college, people played Mario Kart all the time, and it's a blast. Yeah. So I think in terms of real, if the question was what's the most realistic racer, you'd get a different answer. But in terms of just your favorite, I mean, Mario Kart for sure.
Yeah, and I threw that on my list, and honestly, regrettably, I had a 3-way tie with that. 2 of them from the same system, Rock and Roll Racing and Mario Kart. Even though Mario Kart on the SNES was the first and amazing, and I actually used to skip Sunday school, and there was a Super Nintendo at church that I used to play instead of going there. I never owned a Super Nintendo, guys, so this was like very tempting.
Absolutely, man. Can't blame you.
I'm going to have to say that even though Mario Kart was, I mean, like you just explained all the reasons why it's great and everybody loves it. I don't know one person who doesn't like it. Mario Kart 64 to me was the best Mario Kart. And my favorite racing game, though, I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I'm gonna say Road Rash.
Nice.
Road
Yep.
Rash was awesome. The music was so good. Just all the weird cools, like you could drive off the road and hit a cow, and like the cow doesn't move at all. You had to run back to your bike, and just the whole, the different ways you can knock someone off their bike. It just was a good franchise, and it kept getting better too. I remember playing one of the ones, Road Rash 3, I believe, or Road Rash Jailbreak or something for PlayStation. That was great too. Good game.
I mean, like I said earlier, it's the racing games today are so beautiful and they play well and they're social and all that sort of stuff. So, but I think most everyone's answer kind of goes back to probably when they played the most games. And the racing game that I remember the most fondly is Excite Bike. I loved that game for NES. It was awesome how you could build your own courses and whatnot. And we'll talk. Actually, one of the games we're covering later on takes a lot of their cues from Excite Bikes. But I still think, when I think back to racing, that's one of the first games that pops into my mind. So I got to go with Excite Bike on that front. So so before we dive into the rest of our coverage, we have a bunch of racing games that are coming out this fall to cover off on. Let's take a quick minute to see what's up. Phil, what have you been up to in the last week?
Well, I had a fun experience this weekend. It was my son's first time going to the movie theater.
Nice. What'd you take him to?
We went to see the Minions, and this was yesterday, so this is fresh in my brain. He did okay. He made it through most of the movie. However,
and PDJ is 3?
He's not yet 3. He will be 3 October 1st.
So that's a lot to ask for him to sit there and watch a whole,
Yeah, it was. The reason we made the decision, he started watching full movies at home. Granted, he roams the living room, so this was a test. This was definitely a test. And if anybody wants to send him gifts for his birthday, just address them to me. He loves video games,
Destiny,
sports memorabilia.
Florida State.
Anyway, Anyway, it was fun. The previews took way too long, and they weren't really. They were kid friendly, but like 8-9-year-old kid friendly, not little kid friendly.
Sure.
So that was rough. He wanted to leave before the movie started because it was like 20 minutes. And I hate to say this because I love the Minions and I loved Despicable Me, but it was terrible. The movie was awful. Yeah.
Bad.
It was
I thought
boring.
that was like a slam dunk.
I don't, I was like expecting him to be laughing the whole time. It was terribly paced, and I know this is animated, and I'm getting a little, but still, they still need to be paced well. It was terribly paced, and it just wasn't funny. There was like one part where he genuinely laughed by himself, and it was because one of them got hit in the face with something, and the rest of the time we were trying to engage him. We're like, "Oh, look at that, PJ! Look at that!" And you just shouldn't do that during a movie. It should engage the kids themselves, and we tried it, and it was a moderate success. He left with about 40 minutes left with my mom, as she went with us.
No, then so you had to sit there
and watch the rest. We sat there and finished it, and at one point my wife looked at me and she said, "Do you just want to leave?" And I'm like, there's got to be like 20 minutes left. We should just finish it. She's like, "All right."
Animated movies are usually, there's enough adult humor in there that they're usually pretty good. But
but the whole first, I don't want to spoil anything, but the whole first 20 minutes is like narrated. It's just not, I don't know. I didn't think it was very good, and I happen to love the Minions and Despicable Me, so that's just my 2 cents on it.
What have you been playing on the game front?
I don't want to say, but I did play a little bit more FIFA because I've been watching the U.S. men's national team in the Gold Cup, so I kind of had that soccer itch again. So
nice. All right, and that's turns out that's going to be a quick pay up update. So that's going to be our next stream. Sounds like FIFA will be the challenge since I am
it's the game I can
1-0. Win. Exactly. So if I win, I won't practice. Maybe I'll throw a game on or two, but So if I beat you in that, we're gonna.
I swear there's some sort of conspiracy going on if that's what happens. But our games before were tight. They were just, I mean, we were 1-0 wins, I think. Yeah. So
cool, man. Well, so I have I won't bore you with a similar family story, but I did want to really just I did want to relate this to video games. So I brought my son CJ. He's almost 1.5 to aquarium. And we have I'm in Minnesota. It's a Mall of America. They have this big aquarium down there. Anyway, he thought it was awesome. He was just amazed by all the fish and whatnot. There you have this part where you walk through a tube and like the sharks are swimming above you, and it's pretty cool. But for me, it's like, okay, what else could you show me? It's just to relate to video games. I think it just shows you, I've been to many aquariums and zoos, and I've experienced a lot in my life already. But it's just fun to see him where he's seen that for the first time, and whereas I'm less kind of like, okay, this is cool, let's keep moving. It's fun to see that juxtaposition. And with video games now, I feel like we're at the point where we're kind of jaded, where we've played so many and we've seen so much, and even good games we're like, well, there was this and this that wasn't good, but the game was pretty good. It's just interesting to see how from a young, I'm sure from a young gamer standpoint, anything you give them is awesome, because it's moving players on the screen that I can control, and I can win, and that's all that's really important. But when you get to our point, in our gaming life, I guess we get quite a bit more critical of all those little things. So anyway, just interesting story. Have you kind of found that same feeling, Phil? Oh, I think we lost Phil. So anyway, I'll talk about the rest of my the games that I've been playing, and if Phil jumps on, great. If not, we'll end the episode here and then keep going. Oh, looks like I might have gotten Phil back. So anyway, from a sports gaming standpoint, I played a couple things. I'm actually trying to get through Arkham Knight and The Witcher right now, just so I can kind of clean my plate and move on to a bunch of whatever else is coming up. But I did play a little Axis Football, and that's that PC game, that kind of independent PC American football game, non-licensed, that came out July 15th. So it just came out, and it was. I really wanted to enjoy my experience, and I enjoyed it for what it was. But it's got a long ways to go. It's a little bit different take on the controls. So you're controlling it with a mouse and keyboard, and it kind of goes back to, if you remember, some of the older iterations of Madden, where you kind of aimed the ball, and then wherever you aimed it, you threw it, and then hopefully the receiver would be there. So it's got that kind of approach to the passing game, which is interesting. I mean, I think once you play it a bit and have a little more practice, it might be a little more natural. The run game is pretty straightforward. The blockers, they don't really do anything. So as I was trying to blitz, I would just go up to the lineman and just stop, and I couldn't really do anything. There was no moves or anything. So it's really basic. There's no referees, and actually there's an announcer. He actually plays off of that. He makes jokes how, like, oh my God, if there was a ref out there, he would have called a penalty. So that was kind of interesting. It was funny. They're poking fun at the fact that they know that it kind of is what it is at this point, but it could be the foundation, I think, of something interesting. It has all franchises essentially covered. So like I played as the Minnesota Norsemen, I think that what they were called. It has a league.
That's an awesome name, by the way.
It has all the base to kind of the foundation to be something potentially that could compete. Not anytime soon, but I think if it gets enough backing, enough money, enough development help, who knows? It could turn into something. They could use that franchise name hopefully build that the community, the team of developers, and it could turn into something down the road. So we will see. What else did I play? Oh, I did play Trials Fusion, Awesome Level Max. Did you watch any of those videos at all, Phil, or not?
I did not get a chance to do that yet.
So
These are your videos.
well, not my video, just in general. I mean, I think we talked about
okay.
the cat, the
Oh
pistol
yeah, I've
wielding
seen the
cat.
trailers. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Yep. So I got to play. I went and played through that whole. It's like a little story, and it's it's just ridiculous. It's fun, but it's just like you know the trials formula where you're just kind of riding. You know, it's a essentially side-scrolling motorcycle game. But the backgrounds, like all of a sudden you're in space, and then like the first mission, the first track, you become the cat on the unicorn. Like you're the regular motorcycle, and you go into this like little portal thing, and then you come out as the cat and the unicorn, and then
So the
next
unicorn is your bike. That's
the unicorn is your bike. Yes, and
nice.
then after that, like the very next mission, it's like it gives you a little prompt and says like, well, you know, this may not go as expected or something like that, and then you're racing you're the unicorn, and you're all of a sudden you're like flashing between space, and then it like warps you to another area where like you're in a warehouse, and then it warps you to the desert, and then it's so bizarre. And it's fun, but it's just so bizarre. It's hard to describe. The best way I can describe it is at the very end, you you fight a penguin operating a space robot.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're a cat on a unicorn, I mean, the only logical boss fight is penguin and a space robot. So.
Right. Yeah, it's just. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'll play it again. Well, I think some like the base track. The tracks are long. I think the base times on the last track, or the whatever to pass it, is like 4 minutes. So the tracks are pretty long for Trials Fusion. So there's enough content in there to make it fun. So
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So that's what I did. What else did I do? I think I played some more Rory. Just played a little more of the tour. I beat the web.com tournament, so I'm now officially a pro golfer.
Nice,
so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so why don't we dive in? So like I mentioned, this is the final episode of the summer series. We have covered off on pretty much everything that's been released already up to date. Rare Replay comes out August 4th, and then as we mentioned, Garfield Kart comes out as well. It's supposed to be okay, but anyway, we'll cover off on the fall racing games. So we got Mad Max, Forza Motorsport, Need for Speed, the Crew Wild Run the Crew has an expansion called the Wild Run, and then Trackmania Turbo. Yeah, so Phil, you are gonna kick the show off with a little Mad Max. What'd you find out?
So, as you know, I've been interested in this game for a while now. It's kind of been on my radar. I didn't see an actual E3 trailer for it. There was one there, but I caught this somewhere else, and I love Mad Max. I love the series. I love the lore and the world of it.
And we're covering it because if you didn't catch the last show, we're covering it because a huge portion of the game is in a car, right? I mean, that's
more than half of it is in the car, and really it's up to the way you want to play. It could be they say it's about 60% driving, and not necessarily racing, although I'm sure there are some timed races in there. I didn't read about any, but there are a lot of car combat. There's tons of car combat. The customization just seems really cool. You can do the engine to where you want speed and acceleration, or you can do the armor where it's going to be more of a tank type of car where it's going to actually be slower. And the developer did talk a lot about that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you can kind of feel out the way you want to play it. If the armored vehicle that's too slow for you and that's not your style, you can actually then customize it with things that you find out in the world and from side missions and things like that, and customize it your own way to get faster and everything. Okay. So
very cool. So in your is it like a battle arena, or what's kind of the
It's
objective
part of the
game?
campaign. It's part
Okay.
of the campaign. So there is a
It's a
campaign.
third person game, right? Like, so you're the person, you're Mad Max, and then
You
you
are
hop
Max.
into car. All right, okay.
Yes, and I'm going to play a trailer after I kind of run through this.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just I wrote some things down, or in fact, I typed them. I saved trees. But I just took some notes on the game just so I can talk to you guys about it, because I feel like this game isn't getting enough looks. Basically,
I haven't seen a lot of hype for it. Yeah, I mean, there was some hype a couple of months ago, but since then it's been dead.
Yeah, if you search it on YouTube, there's a lot of gameplay videos, and in fact, like I took a lot from Polygon.com, and there was some really cool stuff. Colin Campbell did a little blurb on it, and one of his quotes was, "The game comes from the developer of the Just Cause games." Excuse me, and it also hails from the publisher of Batman's Arkham series. So this is Warner Brothers, and this is Avalanche Games, and they've done the Shadow of Mordor, they've done the Arkham, and they do Just Cause. And if you talk to anybody who plays the Just Cause series, the vehicle battles are fantastic.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
so I'm
Just Cause is
to
pretty. I downloaded the first game just to see what it was like, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot going on, a lot of action. It kind of has a sense of humor. So
yeah,
hopefully we kind of have that as a part of this game.
Yeah, I mean, and the other 40% that it's not driving is really just kind of walking around. It's going to play like a Shadows or an Arkham, where you're completing side missions. The combat, hand-to-hand combat, seems very much in the same vein as Arkham game. So, and that's good. That's a really good thing. And Magnus Needfors or Nedfors, I can't really pronounce that last name. I haven't heard it said, so I'm not sure.
Just go with it.
Yeah. He says the car combat is the key feature to the design. So he is the design director of the game.
Okay.
And basically, so this game is going to be a lot. And if you've ever seen a Mad Max movie, that's what it is. It's driving to survive, to get fuel, to get food, to get supplies. You're in the car. If you're not in the car, you're dead. I mean,
is it tied in with the movie? Is the lore, the storyline?
It's not tied in with the movie Fury Road at all. But it's in that same world. A lot of the landscapes that you see.
There's a different episode or different. It's the same main character, but doing.
It's almost like one of those comic book where it's the same character, so it's not the same as the Mad Max Fury Road Mad Max.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a parallel universe. If you're a
Gotcha.
comic book nerd, you'll kind of get that. It almost looks, and they talk about Gastown, and that exists in Fury Road as well. So it's kind of that whole Mad Max world. It's just kind of a different, this Warner Brothers take on that. So
is it Twisted Metal? Is that what it is?
It's not Twisted Metal, but there's a lot of that, and you'll see in the trailer. It looks awesome. I mean, there's grappling hooks. You can put spiked tires on to do specific things depending on how you want to, go after the enemy, I guess. And he does say that to take on smaller packs of vehicles is quite fun. It's challenging, but it's doable. But if you get into a larger group, you're better off running because you just won't escape that. So I like that idea. I like it being a little realistic, and that's kind of in Shadows of Mordor. You found yourself dying a lot because hordes of enemies would just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But you start with a very basic vehicle. The car's upgraded and customized, according to the player's preference, like I mentioned earlier. You can do various paths, so speed and acceleration versus, armor and weapons, things like that. So it seems like it's got a lot of cool personal touches to your wasteland world, if you will.
So you can customize it to. I mean, that's one of the key points, right? You can make your automobile. And so, I'm sorry. Did you say? Do you just have one automobile, or do you have a garage?
You have a garage, and you'll kind of see that in the trailer as well. It's really hard to explain, but you kind of meet this guy who helps you build this vehicle, and you'll see in the beginning of the trailer to where the story's you'll see where the story's going, because there is a story to it, as there is in Mad Max. I kind of feel like that's going to get lost in the game, and we're really just going to drive around and for
Sure.
lack of a better
Yeah.
term, fuck shit up.
Well, I'm
Like,
sure
honestly.
yeah, when you beat the game, I'm sure. I mean, hopefully, I don't know if there's a new game plus or something, but you'll probably just go back and do the car stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Right?
and there's an upgrade tree to the car as well, but it doesn't take on like a specific philosophy. You just kind of go to where you're looking to go.
Cool, man. Do you want to talk about anything else before you show that trailer?
I just want to say, like, there's the landscapes for all this action. They're big, so you're going to have a lot of room to mess around. It's going to be really cool. It's an open world feel. I don't know if it's completely open world. I wasn't able to find any details on the traveling, if there's like a fast travel or how big this world actually is. It's a wasteland, so I'm assuming it's going to be quite large. And, you know, getting from one place to another to complete a mission or a side mission or anything like that, there will be side missions that will enable you to get like loot drops basically and stuff and materials you can actually farm or mine to build your car up to the way you want it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm assuming you're going to want to do that fairly quickly, because as you progress in the game, you're going to be driving to location, and you're going to run into mobs of enemies. So.
Nice.
And it's a September 1st release date. So let me go ahead and see if I can play that trailer for you guys. It looks awesome, and I'm excited about it.
Life is a savage road. Out here, a man with no wheels is a man with no hope.
I know you. You're the driver.
Where is the car?
Your black on black is scrap. It's gone. She'll never be whole again.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there, guys, because unfortunately it's not showing up on Twitch like I thought it was going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that video on the Boxscore community, and hopefully we'll be able to share it out from our YouTube page for any of our YouTube listeners as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, hearing it's cool, but it doesn't do the same justice. So let me go ahead and post that up on the websites and
nice
for everybody's viewing pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably wait on that game. I want to. It sounds like you might pick it up. Want to get your impression first. If there's like a social element to it, I may get it right. I mean, that's one of those things where if there's a social element to these games, you kind of want to get on that right away. But if it's just a pure single player experience, then add it to the queue, and I'll definitely get to it. But it sounds
I think
sounds
my
fun.
love for that it does. It looks fun, and I think my love for that kind of world will probably pull me in.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, I'll cover off. So Phil's games all release in order. So I'll jump in here, just to switch it up. So the Crew Wild Run. If you've purchased the Crew, they have a season pass. So this is part of that. The Wild Run expansion comes out November 17th. So Christmas time, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas time. So Ubisoft developed this game. Ubisoft actually develops quite a few racing games, which as I was doing my research, I was like, wow, they actually, I mean, they don't do any like traditional sports, I guess, team sports, but they do a lot of racing games. But so if you follow the news, if you played the Crew, you may or may not be disappointed with what you've seen. It got lukewarm reviews. A lot of the issues that they said, there were some technical issues. Graphically, it wasn't quite what people I think were expecting. That might have been because it came out on both the newer generation and the older generation machines. It sounded like it has microtransactions, or it's a little kind of sketchy about how it provides added value as well, and that wasn't well received by reviewers. So Metacritic says it's mid 60s or so, depending on the platform that you played it on. I haven't played it yet. I know a couple of our friends have. It actually looks, so the more I was diving into the game, and I didn't know much more about it until recently,
Mhm.
it looks like a lot of fun. I mean, you essentially have the entire United States. Sure, it's a shrunken down United States, but you race and you do missions across the entire U.S., which is pretty cool. And they have it split up into 5 different factions. You know, you have your West Coast, your Midwest, your Mountain, your East Coast, and your South. So you're essentially part of one of those factions, and you race against everyone else and do missions and whatnot. So it looks actually pretty cool. So in terms of this expansion, the Wild Run, they're adding motorcycles, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
They have drag races in it, which is pretty cool. They have monster trucks in it, which is pretty cool. And then they
Monster
added a drift spec. Well, yeah, it's the one of the articles I read is, you're being chased by the cops through some of these missions. So if you're a monster truck now, how does that play out?
You run shit over. That's what you do.
Exactly. And then they also have a drift, so more like a dirt type racing spec. So they've added quite a bit. It's going to be a big overhaul. The other thing, so they're overhauling the graphics, so they're updating the graphics. They must have realized that it wasn't up to par, and they're upgrading the graphics for everyone. So there's going to be a huge update. Everyone is going to get this graphical update, but only people that purchase the Wild Run are going to get the motorcycles, the monster trucks, and whatnot. So so that's pretty cool. The other thing that it has is what they call the Summit, and I couldn't find a ton of details on this quite yet, but it sounds like this is like a social gathering place where everyone goes and does their races or competes against each other, or can essentially join forces. So that could be interesting. I don't think it's going to be exactly like if you've played Destiny, like the Tower. I think it's similar. It's a place where everybody goes, but I think it's you go there and you actually compete at the summit. So that could be pretty interesting. But
that's
yeah,
really cool because I enjoy any racing game with that social experience. It just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, the more I've been out of racing games for a while now, but the more I read about these types of social racing games, the more I wanna dive back in. I think I fell out of it when what's the PlayStation equivalent of Forza? I'm forgetting right now. Gran Turismo. Yeah, I love those games. And I actually bought a couple of the iterations. But it got to one point where it just was too realistic, and it just wasn't any fun anymore. And all I was doing was following the line and braking when it told me to brake, and getting frustrated and smashing into the wall. And it wasn't very, it wasn't very fun anymore. It was just kind of mechanical and bland. But, I mean, the game's got good reviews, but just for me, I think these more social games are going to be more where. After reading this, I'd consider if I saw Crew on sale, for something, I might pick it up and dive in. So, so we'll see. All right, the next game we're going to cover off, this is the big one, Forza Motorsport 6.
So Forza Motorsport 6, which releases September 15th. Now, this is a game that I've had my eye on. And like we just discussed, the social experience of Forza Horizon 2 and its Fast and the Furious release kind of addition they had that they gave out for free for a little while.
Awesome. That was fun. That was perfect.
It was super fun, and it brought me totally back into that world. And I've never owned a Forza game before. I played the Forza Horizon 2 demo. It was fun. I liked it. The drivatars, man, I tell you what, it makes a difference for me. It just, I feel like I'm, like you mentioned Destiny and the Tower. I feel like I'm in somewhere like that when I'm just driving to the next mission and I see, Colin Perkins drive by me real quick. It's not you, it's your drivatar, but you feel like you're in that.
Right. And then you want to beat me, right?
World.
Like, you're like, oh, where's he going? I'm going to catch up to him.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can actually race the drivatars in specific situations. So if you had raced a race before and then I raced that race, and it's going to you can challenge rivals. It's crazy. I love that. It was a very smart move on Microsoft's part because it brought me back in. So Forza Motorsport 6 is going to feature 26 tracks, which is quite a bit. 10 are completely new to the franchise, so that's cool.
That's huge.
Yeah, they got 4 new locations featuring Rio de Janeiro, Daytona, Brands Hatch, and Watkins Glen. So looking forward to that. They got the dynamic weather now, so that's was cool. That's a big thing in racing. Graphics seem to be one of the number one things, I mean, out of any game, but with driving especially. I think the graphics and the graphical integrity of the driving games now are really lifting one above another. Mm-hmm. So the wet weather driving will be in the game. So say a car's coming around a turn, if that car hits a puddle at a high rate of speed and isn't braking or hasn't turned properly, it will actually slip or hydroplane. So
that's awesome.
They've added the weather effects to affect the races, not just the raindrops hitting the windshield, but it will actually affect the races in a.
I think it's something that they've toyed with. Other games have toyed with, but I'm guessing Forza is going to pull it off pretty well.
Yeah, Turn 10 Studios has done a really good job with the Forza. I mean, you almost don't hear about Gran Turismo at all anymore, and that was the sim game to have.
That's true.
And I think Forza has kind of taken that over. Another thing about the weather is they actually went to some of the locations, or most of the major locations, and actually filmed and recorded the way weather affects that specific track. So if you're racing on a specific track and they found that when it rains, there's puddles in certain areas of that track, that's where the puddles are going to be if it rains during your race.
That's cool.
Forza 6.
That's another level, man. That's great.
It's doing that. It's like for the shooter games when they actually get out there with real ammunition and capture that audio. That's how I feel the immersion is going to be really good. Turn 10's relationship with Top Gear is going to continue. It just will be without Jerry Clarkson. So the Top Gear guys will be doing the announcing and everything like that. So
yeah,
that's something that's been going on in the past. Here's this crazy part, right? So the campaign will be actually 70 hours worth of content. That's huge, man. That's huge for a racing game.
Holy crap. I mean, so is that each level, or like to beat the game on normal, it's 70 hours?
I'm guessing it's 70 hours worth of a campaign. So you step that up to hard, from normal. I'm guessing it's the same campaign, but you're going to have different. I mean, everything's going to be different with this dynamic weather. So, you may have raced the same course before, but now maybe it's raining or, so that's big. And that's great news for me. Yeah. Cause it's definitely worth the money. Right. You can have up to 24 racers in some races at a time. That's crazy big too.
That's a lot, yeah. I mean, the more powerful machines can pull that off, which is great. I don't know what the average has been. I think it's only been like 10 or 12.
Yeah, 24. I mean, I'm guessing these are only specific races. These, are certain types, but still, that's really fun. They're continuing their Ford relationship. It's actually gone to a new level now where they debuted the GT, at E3 and a couple of other venues. So that'll continue. They've got the new Raptor in the game, so that'll be fun.
Yes, nice.
And you ready for how many cars you can have?
Speaking of,
if you were to actually, because I will say this first, it's going to have a lot of cars to start with, but most of the cars are going to be, not most, microtransactions are what's going to get you the cars. They used to do like a coin system, and they don't do that anymore. It's going to be microtransactions to get some of these cars into.
So is that the only way? So you have to purchase these cars?
You would have to purchase some of these cars, yeah. And I didn't find a list of these. But let me just tell you how many there's going to be total, because there's 489 available cars total.
489 cars.
489. And I believe it's something like, it's a ridiculous number that you'll get without the microtransactions. So it's in the hundreds.
So you could literally drive every day. You could drive in a different car, and it would take you over a year, like almost a year and a half.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane for you completion guys. I feel bad for you because
I'm
That's a
off
lot.
I'm off that wagon. Trust me. I'm very selective in my completionist activities now.
Yeah, and again, you're starting out. I think you're starting out with well over 200 cars without the
That's
microtransactions.
plenty.
So
That's plenty of content.
I
Yeah.
can find
So
something in there that I'll like. I mean, so we'll let the many pay for the few on that. And again, we won't go into the whole microtransaction argument, but I think you're going to get your money's worth out of that, especially with the 70 hours worth of content. So
that's amazing. Wow.
that's the way Forza 6 is stacking up. So
Very cool, man. Yeah, that's that one's gonna be hard to pay. And they have a bundle, right? I think they have a bundle coming out.
they do. They have a whole Xbox bundle, and
Mhm.
it's like a midnight blue. It's sleek. It's very good looking.
That'll be nice. Yeah. So I think that'll push a lot of Xboxes. So yeah, that'll be fun to see how that's received. It'll be fun to see.
It's at a
It'll be
tough
fun to dive in.
spot. It's at a tough
Oh,
spot
yeah.
release
Mhm.
date wise. Not so much competing with other racing games, but just in that September, there's a lot of stuff releasing this fall. So I'm hoping, and I think Microsoft's hoping they can push these Xboxes for the holiday sales. So
Yeah, no, I think some people may wait because Madden comes out. I mean, if you're a sports gamer, you're getting
Mhm.
Madden, you're probably getting
Mhm.
hockey or basketball. That's 120 right there. If you're going to buy Forza brand new, that's 108. I mean, it's going to add up quick. So plus, if you like other games, there's just a lot coming out. It's crazy.
it's going to be hard to be a budget gamer coming up. There's a lot going on.
That's right. All right, so I'll cover off on Trackmania Turbo. This one actually comes out December 1st. And if you're a Trackmania fan, again, this is an Ubisoft developed or produced game. This is the 10th iteration of this game.
Wow.
Yeah, so I wasn't really familiar with this until I saw it at E3. I thought it looked fantastic. But I haven't. I mean, I think it's been on PC and a couple. I think there's been some Wii releases. But so it's a familiar name, and one of the reasons that I'm interested in it is because it has that track building ability. Kind of what I was talking about with Excite Bike is you can. They're essentially giving the community free reign to build any track that they want, upload it, and then you can play. You can play anybody's track, and so let me step back.
That's
I
really
guess
cool.
so the race. It's kind of like I would liken it to. Do you ever see road race sets? You know, like it's the track with like the little electric. You get that little gun, and
Yep.
it's electric cars.
Yep.
My dad loved that stuff growing up. It's still popular, I think, for hobbyists and whatnot. So it's essentially like that, only on steroids, right? So like you can make loops, full 360-degree loops. You can, you can make huge jumps. You're flying over the air, and you have to land that to actually move on. It's like road race or Matchbox Cars when you were 10, just like in a video game, right? It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's up my alley, especially being more of the arcade racer. I think it's definitely something I'm interested in. So it has 4 environments, and they're pretty self-explanatory. It has Lagoon Roller Coaster, International Stadium, Canyon Drift, and Dirty Valley. So you can probably imagine what you're going to get in all those 4 different environments. The campaign has 200 tracks to unlock over 200 tracks over 5 difficulties. So essentially, I'm sure like the first 20 are going to be an easy, and then they're going to get more and more hard as you move on. So 200 tracks in the game, plus the community tracks, which are essentially endless. So, oh my God, there's so much content there. It's gonna be crazy.
That's cool, because then you're not getting the same thing all the time. And that's what hurts arcade games, in my opinion, is the repetitiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's going to be unique. Yeah, I mean, even Trials. I mean, they have a ton of courses, but after a while, they kind of get a little bit repetitive. Even though they're all unique. But I think when and Trials does have the community aspect as well. But I think this is going to be real. I mean, Trials is more of a 2D, whereas this is the full 3D racer. So I think people are going to come up with some pretty cool stuff. One of the other interesting points that they have is, and I don't know how this works, but it has a double driver feature. So two people, so essentially, Phil, you and I can drive the same car at the same time.
That is interesting. That is a good like couch co-op situation with some beers. That would be fun.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means you're steering and I'm accelerating. Or...
Well, that would be cool. That's what I would think it would mean. It's like if you're controlling the gas and the brake and I've got to steer and we've got to be in communication or else we're going to crash.
Yeah, so that could be pretty fun. So I already mentioned the track builder, and then the other cool little thing is what they call systematic music. So the music actually changes. It speeds up, it slows down. It'll have different variations in intensity based on what you're doing on the course. How crazy is that?
That's cool. I like that.
So you're going really fast down a straightaway. I'm sure there's whatever techno music or whatever is in the background. It'll probably have a great beat. You all of a sudden, brake and crank around a corner. The music will react accordingly. You go through a 360 loop. Same type of thing. It'll probably have some tone or something, some new element when you're going upside down. So yeah, so this will be really interesting. I'm excited to see what comes out of this game. So if you haven't heard of it, if you are interested in arcade racers, check out a little Trackmania Turbo. Phil, why don't you bring us home? What's our final game of the fall 2015 pregame series?
So November 3rd will be the Need for Speed game. There's just Need for Speed. Like that's all they're calling it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a little reboot, right? I mean,
it's kind of like we're getting back to the roots of Need for Speed with this one, only in a completely different way. We're going deeper into the customization than we ever have before, and that is a direct quote from General Manager of Ghost Games, Marcus Nielsen. So, I mean, that's really cool. That's what people really want out of a Need for Speed game.
That's what underground racing is more about, is that I can customize anything. I have tons of options, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of like, in Rivals is great, but Rivals doesn't have that. You only have a certain amount of things that you can actually customize. And Need for Speed was kind of doing that for a little while. They had those street games where everything was available for you to change, but not really the engine tuning. It was kind of just the look of the car. And then you had the other games where you could give it like a kind of like a set, like a sticker set, but that's really all you could do. You could change the color of the wheels. You couldn't really mix match, a fin with a hood and all this kind of stuff. And that's really cool to do. You're making the car your own. Essentially, you'd race for pink slips in the campaign and you'd win that car, and you can then go ahead and just really just tear it down and just kind of make it up. It's completely something different.
Cool.
Yeah, and then with this one, I guess you can customize almost anything that's cosmetic, but you can also tweak the individual like granular parts of the engine, the tuning. You can pick a spot on a single bar, and one end of that bar would rep the like sim aspect, so you can get a more simulated feel, a racing feel, like a more grippy, like a Forza or a Gran Turismo, or you could get an arcadey feel, depending on how you liked to play the game, which is really cool because I think that's going to take the best of both worlds. You're going to have that Need for Speed story with customization, but if you like a racing sim, there you go. You can do them both.
Do you have a budget then? So are you earning money to upgrade your car, or how do you know how to unlock that stuff?
I hadn't come across anything. I will get that information for everybody. But basically how they've always worked in game was basically as you raced, you can sell off your cars. You would earn money for races, things like that. I'm sure there's going to be side races that you can go and do at all times to earn extra cash to do the customization.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and another cool thing that Nielsen said was they went as far as to bring all the team members back, or some team members from each Need for Speed game, and bring them back into the studio and work on this game. So that's cool. Why I think there's a little bit of everything. Yeah. It's going to run off the Frostbite 3 engine, so it's going to look good. Now,
so really quick, let me just go back to that point where they're bringing back the developers from the original game. So I was thinking about this today. I just want to cover off on this. People keep saying 2K 2K5 football. They love that game. That was a competition for Madden. They loved it. It's not no longer around. People want 2K to bring that game back. I think that's a great idea. I love competition, but to just bring that franchise back, it's 10 years later. Those developers have moved on. It's a whole new team, most likely. So you're not necessarily going to get that same level of product. I don't think that's what the gaming community necessarily understands. It's just not. It's not like all these people don't have careers just like you and I, and aren't moving up the chain and moving on to start their own businesses and whatnot. So I don't think it's as simple as, okay, we're going to get 2K football back and it's going to be better than Madden right out of the gate. That's just not the case. But what you're talking about is they're actually bringing back those original people. And now you're it's definitely gonna feel more like that original Need for Speed that that played so well and that you're so fond of.
Yeah, you're bringing the organicness, if I can say that, of the game back to, you're bringing that core people back into the studio. And I don't know in what regard they're helping develop the game. I don't know if they're sitting down writing code, or if we're just like, hey, on like a what's the word I'm looking for here? You guys don't know. Basically just a consultant to say,
okay,
what should we do in these areas, or how did you do this, or So,
but they're part of the process. So maybe that
Absolutely.
team, the people that they're bringing back, who knows, maybe they were actually in the mud at the time. They were actually building the code, but they also had that vision, or they knew what that vision was of that original game. So they're able to bring that now 10 years later, but they're able to bring that same feeling, that same emotion, that same intention back.
Absolutely. And that's why I meant, the organic parts of that game are coming back. And whether they're in, like you said, whether they're in the developing situation or the consultant situation, they're going to bring something back to that game that was there to try and recapture past glory. Just moving on from that a little bit, just have a few things more. The one thing that I think this game is going to have a hard time with, because every game has a hard time with this, and guys, I just don't understand it. This may be a good exhibition match at some point. The always online. So this game is always online.
Okay.
So you need to have an online connection for either single player or multiplayer.
Really?
So
for single player too?
you do.
Okay.
And the reason is because they have basically something that works like the drivatars. It's called All Drive. It'll allow players to join each other in any like part of the game. So you can interact with each other. You can participate in races. So it's kind of like an all connected shared world. And you see that a little bit in Rivals too.
Okay.
Rivals as well.
Yeah. Well, we played that, right? Yeah.
We did. Yeah. And we saw their people there. Police pursuits are still in the game.
So they don't. So essentially, they're doing always online to populate the experience, the universe, the races, instead of doing the drivatars. Whereas Forza does the drivatars, Need for Speed is using actual real live human beings. Gotcha.
Yes, and so I'm sorry, I just don't feel like this is a bad thing. This is what we all wanted out of our video games, guys and gals, a long time ago. We've been crying for this. We've been crying for persistent gameplay. We've been crying for an ever-changing world where I can log in and play with different people or have a different experience each day. And this is what...
Go
ahead.
I was just going to say that I think you and I are in a unique position, whereas we have through our connections and whatnot, we have a nice little social group of people that can play games together, right? But Joe Blow out in the sticks, he may not know many people that play games, and so so this is trying to build that in where, okay, I'm gonna pop on, and I might actually meet some people that are fun to race with.
Sure.
And now they're now my gaming buddy, right? Whereas
Sure.
I don't have that network anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even if you didn't, I mean, there's the single player still there. You don't have to. I mean, you do have to have an internet connection. Unfortunately, there are still people that don't have it or can't always keep it connected, and I get it. And in that case, this racing game isn't for you. That's all. But even if you didn't have that network of gamers to play with, to log on and still get a single player experience, but feel like you're playing with people because there's other people driving around. So, you don't have to necessarily reach out and touch somebody, but, it's cool to have that ever changing world. And, the developers can make a lot of updates and things available to the game, right from the cloud, boom, and your game is better for it. So I just don't like all the negative feedback that mode that gets.
I think
I know there are going to be some always.
I haven't read it specifically, but I'm guessing people just want to be able to toggle, right? Like, give me both options.
Sure. Yeah, I know, but
it's not that. I don't think it's that easy. From a development standpoint, it's probably not. I mean, if it was easy, they would probably do it, but it's probably just not.
And I think this would be a great poll question for the community. Maybe we should save some of this argument, not that we're having an argument, but some of these debate points, for that. And moving on, just so we could wrap up this little part of the show here. I only see that you can get 12 vehicles. That hurts a little bit. 12 vehicles and only own 5 at a time. So,
so you can customize the crap out of them, right? So
you can,
but you only have 12 base models. That seems really light, especially when Forza has almost 500, right?
Yeah, and I mean Forza gets some ridiculous cars that you might never race with, but still, there's 12 vehicles, and to me that says the campaign is a little short. I don't know that. I don't know, but I could feel like racing if you're one of these guys that did just straight campaign and didn't do any of the just kind of free driving or anything like that you would get through this pretty quickly and own basically all the cars at one point. So.
And you can't necessarily say, Need for Speed Rivals was on next gen, so you can't necessarily say it's one of those, Rory McIlroy or NHL 15 situations where it's their first go at the next gen. So that's disappointing.
I don't know if and again, maybe it's not. Maybe the way this game plays, it's going to be perfectly adequate. I don't know that. It's just when you see that number, it's a little. Yeah,
if the customization is deep enough where 12 almost feels like a lot, then I can understand that. So
and maybe I'll get some more information on that. That's what I came up with today and read about this today, because I have to be honest that Need for Speed was only researched today before the show. So, but I'll come up with. Yeah, any information that I come across for you guys that's new or developing, or perhaps I read it wrong, I will get that information across to everybody, the correct information. So we'll see. We'll see if we have an interest for any of these games.
Nice. Well, so we've covered a lot. That wraps it up for our golf and racing. Our one golf game, but our essentially our summer series. So what are you looking forward to? What are you going to pick up? What do you recommend our listeners, our viewers buy this fall, I guess this year? What do you recommend people pick up?
Well, I'm recommending Forza 6, and I'm recommending Mad Max. And Forza 6, I think, is pretty obvious why I'm recommending it. I'm very high on that game. A lot of the things that a lot of the information I gave you guys today, the 70 hours of campaign, the 489 cars. You're going to have 26 tracks. It's just the weather system. It's just, they really are going all out for this game, and I think it's going to show up in the quality. So I really don't have to say much about that. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. And Mad Max, because look, we don't have many car games out there with the destruction anymore. I think that used to be, that had its time where there was a lot. We had the Burnout, we had Driver. Twisted Metal was great.
Yeah, you get dents and dings in these racing games, but you still don't total your car. You just flip over and keep going.
Again, when I'm going to post this trailer right up onto the Boxscore as soon as we're done with the show, and it's phenomenal. I'll go ahead and post a long one where they actually talk about a lot of the customization and how that's done. I feel like that portion of the game, since it's more than half, is going to really sell this game to car guys. And it's going to be really cool to have that destruction and that challenge of trying to get through a wasteland without being destroyed. So it should be fun.
Nice. Very cool. So my recommendations, I'm going to say Rory because it's next gen golf. It's fun. It's arcade. It's got the realistic aspect of it as well. I feel like they're going to update that game. They're going to get they've said a bunch of the DLC is going to be their updates DLC is going to be free right away. So I think they're going to cram quite a bit more into that game. It's not an annual release, so you're going to get that same base engine next year as well. So I definitely would recommend pick that game up. Rocket League, I had a lot of fun with. I'm gonna keep playing. Like I said, I haven't played a lot lately because I'm trying to get through some other stuff. But I would say pick up Rocket League. If you're a PS4 owner, it's free right now. It sounds like that community is having a lot of fun with it. Pick that up, and then I'm gonna say Trackmania Turbo. I think there's a lot of replayability there. It's gonna be, you've heard me say it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And there's definitely that social aspect of the game. Yeah, so those are the three that I've I already picked up Rory, but Rory and Rocket League, but Trackmania I'm looking forward to. I may have a look at the other ones, but those are going to be from what we've been talking about. Those are gonna be where I spend my most time.
Those are definites. They're on the list.
They're on the list. So. Man, I'm exhausted after that. Wow, we covered a lot.
There's a lot of information there, guys.
A lot of information. We're gonna go ahead and skip the exhibition match this week because we are exhausted. I'm sure you're exhausted as well. We'll dive into a quick fall preview. So we are gonna what we're probably gonna do is we're gonna do one show per sport. And dedicate instead of doing the kind of the series where we cover multiple. There's so much coming out this fall. I mean, we got Madden, we got NHL, we got FIFA, we got NBA, 2 NBA games. There's a bunch of little small arcade games coming out. So yeah, we're excited. It's gonna be a busy fall. So yeah, so what we're probably gonna do is do one dedicated show for each. We're gonna cram as much information in there. We're gonna record as close to that game release as possible. We could probably cover up on the reviews in the previous show. So anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll bring you all the good content that you're used to, and we're really excited for it. All right, Phil, you got anything to wrap up to mention before we wrap up?
Well, I do want to apologize. We did have some slight technical difficulties there in the middle. I don't know what happened there, but I dropped out for a little while and got back in.
I forgive you.
If anybody was watching on Twitch, we did pop out there for a minute or two, so I apologize for that. And again, I wanted to thanks everybody in the Boxscore community for stepping up and taking on the challenge of being a captain of the sport. Really don't think there's going to be a ton of work involved in it. So if you guys want to pick up those remaining sports, feel free. I mean, we only ask that you can do what you feel you can do. Just post about the sport, encourage, that's it. I mean, just create a little bit of content for it. Post something every once in a while if you come across new information that you want to share.
Just, lead the conversation, lead the charge. And I think as soon as we found, Phil and I pretty much drive a lot of the content. If you post something and put out some, an interesting quip or interesting thought, then, people want to talk about it. So, so thank you. I agree. Thank you to all those guys that have stepped up. It's going to make the community a lot better, a lot more rich. It's going to be good. We're looking, especially leading into the fall. There's so much coming up. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited for the fall, and I also want to see if the community wants to tell us, how do you guys want us to bring you this content? Do you like all the meat and potatoes of the information, or would you rather see us hit on key points, or just quickly? I'll kind of take a poll in the community, and we'll see how you like that information brought to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to do our job better.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to take a couple weeks off here as we wait for Madden to come out. So yeah, let us know what you think of the show. We're flexible. The main goal here is just to talk sports games and get the conversation going. So if you have any feedback, send it our way.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap the show. We will see you in a couple weeks to start the football conversation. We got fantasy football leagues coming up pretty soon, drafts and all that sort of stuff. So training camps start pretty soon, right? I haven't seen
Real
any
soon,
dates.
yeah.
So,
Real soon.
cool, guys. All right. Well, thanks for joining us this episode. We will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Well, that wraps it up for this week's pregame. See you again next week, same time, same venue, and thank you for listening. Hey, sports fans, come be a part of our Boxscore Facebook community at facebook.com/groups/Boxscore.